love and strength for each new day. He will make a way. He will make a way. Let's sing it together. Oh, God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways.
Welcome from the heart. It's so good to be with you today. And I have a guest who you'll have to just bear with me because I get all choked up about Marilyn. A year ago, I saw Marilyn at the Relay for Life. In fact, she was the keynote speaker, and she did a wonderful job. But at that time, all of us, I guess, were wondering if Marilyn was going to get well. I kept believing God that she would. And today she's here with me, and I thank the Lord for that. Marilyn Wheat is a very special lady, and she's from Scottsville, and she's a nurse liaison. I can't say that right, Marilyn, but with a medical center in from Bowling Green. And she does home health with the home health department, and she works with them. Has that been your job all along? You were at another position
No,
earlier,
I worked
didn't you?
in the coronary care with the heart patients for 12 years.
Okay, I
yes.
thought you had something
Yeah.
to do with heart deal.
Yes.
So here she is going about her business again, and I asked her to just come share with us. I wanted to do this before we had the Relay for Life, but didn't get that done because it just didn't work out for me after I smashed my face on concrete. But I'm so glad that I can be back to bring you people to minister to you, and I know God sends the right one for the right time, and I pray that you'll just sit down tonight and just be blessed by her testimony. Marilyn, let's start with, you were here years ago.
Yes.
And I don't even remember what we talked about. Do you?
I remember that we talked about breast cancer awareness.
Okay.
So
we were
one thing that I
talking
was
about
here
it,
for.
and you weren't a victim then, were you?
No, I wasn't. Only through my family members being touched by it. My dad's baby sister that I was very, very close to had breast cancer. She was diagnosed at age 41, and she lost her life to it at 49. So that was one reason. I was 12 years younger than she, and we were just always very close, and that was one reason that I became so interested in promoting breast cancer awareness, was because of my Aunt Joyce. She was just always very special to me.
Well, and you did a good job when you were on that time. So I'm going to ask Marilyn to go back and tell me a little bit about herself when you were let's do a background check on you.
Okay.
See,
all right.
tell
I'll
them
be
what
glad
it was
to.
like growing up. Where were you raised, Marilyn?
Well, I grew up in Bowling Green, Kentucky. My dad and mother are both originally from Allen County. Daddy from halfway, and mother from down in the community around Walker's Chapel, where I live now. But I grew up in Bowling Green. Dad worked for a doctor. He was a physician's assistant for 25 or 30 years, Dr. Henry Harris, a urologist. So Daddy was always on call. So we had to live close to the hospital. So we lived there close to City County Hospital all of my growing up years, and very blessed with a very loving home, a wonderful father, wonderful mother. I have one sibling, a brother that's 5 years younger than me, and was always very close to him. You know, I could say what I wanted to about him or beat him up, but don't let anybody else touch my
That's
baby
the way
brother.
It goes.
And
Blood's thicker than
That's
water,
right.
is that what they say?
It is, and I would fight a circle saw for him. So it was the four of us growing up in Bowling Green, and I was always very blessed to be in a loving home. There wasn't fighting and arguing or drinking or anything like that went on, and I've lived a very blessed childhood. I went to Bowling Green High, graduated from there, and graduated early and went on into Western and into the nursing department. And so graduating early, I think I felt older, so I married at 18. And my husband was 21, and he's from Allen County. And we had roots together because even though I grew up in Bowling Green, we always come back to my home church at Walker's Chapel.
Well, tell everybody his name before we forget.
Daryl Wheat. And so I went to church there with him growing up. He was 3 years older than I. I was 18 and he was 21 when we married. And we were very blessed because me being so young when we married, he had a good job from the beginning. And I've always told my children, you know, that was one thing that did really help when you marry young like that.
Yes, it does.
And I was bound and determined, especially I think for my dad. He really wanted me to be a nurse, and I was bound and determined that even though I married, I would finish nursing school. And so I went on through nursing school, and my husband and I talked and decided that we would wait about starting a family until I got through nursing school and got out and started working for a while, and we got on our feet. And of course, you know, we have a way of planning our life, and that's not exactly the way things turn out. So after we had been married for about 6 years, we decided that it was time to start a family. And I conceived and carried a baby girl about 6 months, and went into premature labor with her, and lost our first baby. It was very devastating. It was heartbreaking, of course, and I had always wanted to be able to give my grandmother her first great-grandchild. And so I really felt like I was disappointing a lot of people, even though no one in my family made me feel that way. That's just the way the enemy made me feel. I realize now that it was the enemy, and he really came and kind of attacked my self-esteem. And then I guess it was a couple of years later, we decided again to try to have a baby, and I conceived, and again I carried a baby about 5 or 6 months and lost that baby as well. And then I had an early third miscarriage. So it's hard to explain how you feel as a woman when you just, you know, it's the heartache, the pain and the ache that's in your heart for your loss.
I've never gone through that, Marilyn, but for some reason I feel like there's probably somebody watching who is there
I'm
or
sure.
has been there.
I'm sure. It was a very tiring thing, I guess, that I could explain it in one way. It's tiring because at that time I was working in the cornea care unit at the old city county, and then at the medical center later on when we moved in there. And I'd get up each morning and I'd just paint on a real happy smile and go off to work. And I really felt like I was pretending because I don't think anybody knew the grief that was in my heart for losing these babies. And after losing the third child, we went to Vanderbilt and we saw a specialist there, and we had test after test done, you know, as to what was wrong. And finally, the night before Thanksgiving, the specialist called me at home and said, "Miss Sweet, I'm sorry to have to tell you this," but he said, "As you well know, you don't have any trouble conceiving, but you will never be able to carry a child to term." He said, "It's just not possible." He said, "You have what we call an abnormal baby carriage, and when you get so far along, the placenta, you know, just gives way, and you just can't carry a baby to term." And needless to say, you know, I was heartbroken again. Felt like I was disappointing my husband, although he was always very supportive and never made me feel that way. But it was just something that the enemy comes and does to us.
That's what he does. He plays on our mind, doesn't he?
He does. One thing, and of course I was young at the time, and one thing that he just kept saying to me, the enemy did, and I didn't realize it at the time, although I was saved at 12 years old, but I didn't realize that it was the enemy. But it was this ugly voice that was just like, "You can't do anything right. Most women can squat by a tree and have a baby, and you can't even do that." So it really affected me. You know,
Well,
it was
of course
tiresome. It was just tiresome to I didn't want my parents or my husband or anyone to know how devastated I really was. So I kind of just packed that around.
Looking back on it, Marilyn, do you think if
and,
you had let that all go to somebody, it would have mended your heart quicker?
Oh, absolutely quicker. Yes, absolutely quicker.
I think people need to realize that there are things that we carry sometimes that we take them to God first. But when you're young like that, I know with me, I didn't really realize that as I do now.
Oh, sure.
I wish I'd known then what I know now.
Absolutely.
But if you could have had someone that you could just spill that out, you know, and then really analyze your feelings, it might have
Sure.
made you heal within without having to carry such a load on your own and trying to protect
Sure.
everybody else.
Yes, I think that's true, and I think we just kind of do that as women a lot
We
of time.
do.
We want to protect
We do it
everyone
with
around
cancer.
us.
You know,
Yes.
you try to protect your family, and yet at the same time, you all of these terrible fears and what can be. And I worry for people who don't have a tight hold on the Lord, I call it,
Oh,
because I don't know where that song, Where Could I Go But to the Lord?
absolutely.
And you know, where could we go? Where do I
Yeah.
run to when
Oh,
there's no what place to turn?
Sure.
And
I've thought
we
about
do.
it so much. You know, I don't know where people go,
I
but
don't
to the
either.
Lord. I've thought about that song a lot.
Yeah.
But I did finally just really, you know, cry out to the Lord. And it was when, I think it was at the moment that I fell down on my knees and I said, Lord, if it be your will that I never hold a baby of my own in my arms, if I am never a mother, then I am ready to accept your will for my life. But I said, you have to come and fill this empty hole in my heart because I can't continue on like this. And that's, you know, even though I was saved, that was when he really come in a mighty way. And he did fill that empty hole in my heart. And little did I know then, 2 years after my last miscarriage, we were in the process then, because we were still young, the
Sure you
miscarriages,
were.
yeah, because let's see, I was 18 when I married, so 6 years later is when we started trying. So all of this happened probably from the time that I was around 24 to 28 or 30 years old, losing the babies. And it's just amazing how he came, and he just filled my heart, you know, with a peace and a joy, and I knew everything was going to be okay. And we were praying and trying to decide about adoption. And one of the physicians that I worked with very closely in coronary care told me one thing to think about. He knew of a situation where a family had adopted a little girl, and her birth mother took her back when she was about 2 years old, and they were just devastated. So I knew that that was something we really needed to pray about and know that God was leading us in adoption or what to do. And lo and behold, I found out that I was expecting.
Praise the Lord.
Not meaning to be, not being on any medications or anything. I found out I was expecting, and I was shocked, very, very surprised, you know, that I was expecting. And so my husband's boss knew this wonderful specialist in Nashville, and he got me an appointment with him. And I went down, and the very first day that I was there, Dr. Jim Daniels, he's now retired, I think, but he did an ultrasound. And even back that many years ago, their technique was so advanced, it was like looking at a video. And he showed us from the very beginning, and he was so excited. He said, young lady, he said, this is a multiple birth.
Oh.
He said, I don't have any idea how many babies there are right now because you're just, you know, just barely pregnant. But he said, it's definitely more than one and could be several. Well, you know, I just can't tell you. I mean, you know, multiple birth, it just sounded like there was 6 or something, you know, and I thought, oh my goodness. But it was just such a blessing, and I think Daryl started smiling the minute he said that and saw the ultrasound, and hasn't stopped smiling to this day. And it was just such a blessing. The pregnancy was somewhat difficult. I did have to be off my feet a lot, and the doctors in Nashville told me to live like a princess. And since I had never lived like a princess before, I didn't really know what they meant. But I couldn't be on my feet a lot. He said maybe stand to open a can of soup and then right back to bed. But I really had to be off my feet quite a bit, and went into premature labor a couple of times, but God is so good. And
Yes, He is.
even with them being twins, it's not that uncommon that they were born 6 to 7 weeks premature. But They were delivered by cesarean section, and we were in the hospital during Thanksgiving, but we all came home together. And that was so wonderful to not have to go off and leave my tiny little babies in the hospital.
And those two are, tell them their names.
Matthew and Joshua, and they're 21 years old now. They turned 21 on Thanksgiving Day this last year.
What a gift God gave
yes.
you.
And yes, I thought it was very special that we learned that Matthew's name actually means a gift from God. And Joshua, of course, has several meanings, but one meaning that his name means that was very important to me was satisfied, satisfaction. And I can remember being at home after we brought them home, and I was looking through the baby book and saw what their names meant, and it was just really neat. I knew that their names were from God because He had really satisfied me, you know, that yearning in my heart, even though He had come and just filled me up with His presence to give me the desires of my heart. was just so good.
And that happens to some people, and then others adopt, and then they have one, like it happened with me.
Absolutely.
So God was good and knew my heart, you know, and He
Yes.
knew I wanted a child so bad.
Oh, yes.
And we had adopted Lisa, and she was it. I didn't think any more about it.
Yeah.
And I had always said I wanted a boy, you know, but to go with the girl, I'd want 2 children, a boy and a girl. But after she came along, I was sort of satisfied, you know, God had given me a daughter.
Yes.
And then I found out that I was expecting Chris, was pregnant with Chris. So we had a son and a daughter, you know, that so many times that happens.
Oh, it does.
But
it does.
here you had twins. That isn't all, is it? Let's
no,
go
that's
on.
not that's not the end of the story. So of course we were so thankful and felt so blessed to have, you know, 2 babies after thinking for
Sure.
so many years that we weren't going to have any. And so then there again, when the boys were about 5.5 years old, then along comes Sarah. And she was not planned as well, and I just know that it was God's plan for us. And of course, Sarah means princess. So.
How did the boys see Sarah?
She's their little sister. They've always felt like that we made them work and we're harder on them than we've been on her, though. And I think that you do.
Oh,
do
I heard that a lot.
Yes,
My
I think
brother,
that's just
I
natural.
met, was 20 when I was born,
Uh-huh.
so I was that little princess. But
Yes.
they thought had it made because I was the only one at home, and I really was their little princess too till their
Yes.
children came along. But,
That's I think that's how they see her. Yeah.
tell me a little bit about Sarah.
Well, Sarah is a very, very special young lady. From the time that she was just little, I don't know. It's just, I think she's just been filled with the Holy Spirit just all along. Of course, we go to a Methodist church and very active in our small little church, and love our church family, and my kids have been raised in church. But being in the Methodist church, of course, I had gone to lots of different services around. I have lots of friends and I go to Bible studies and different things. So I had been in the presence of services where they had actually prayed and spoken tongues. But at this time, Sarah had not been. And it was from the time that the boys were born, we've always had family prayer in our home. So I can look back now, and even though I was saved at 12 years old, God knew that I was more ready to be a mother when I was 30. And that's how old I was when I had the boys. And at that time, it was just the utmost importance to me that my children really knew Jesus. And I don't mean just taking them to church.
Right.
I mean really know Jesus and have that
And if
relationship
they really know
with Him.
they aren't going to be coming out with all this vulgar stuff that
No.
you hear so much spewing from kids.
No.
And I look at them, Marilyn, and I don't blame them. I blame their environment,
Yes,
how they
it's
grow
so
up.
sad.
It is
I would
sad.
never allow my children to call each other stupid. I would never allow them to say shut up to each other. So that my daughter especially is always called the dirty S words. Well, of course, a lot of people just look like, but she's talking about you know, the word
Stupid and,
stupid and shut up, because I realized early on words can kill.
Yes,
you
they
know,
can.
we can build up and encourage with our words and really help make someone's day, or we can tear down and destroy
That's right.
someone by our words. And so that was always very important to me. But Daryl and I talked by the time we brought the boys home from the hospital, and they were just tiny little babies, but we decided then that we were going to have family prayer in our home every night. Every single night, no matter what was going on, we were going to have family prayer. And praise God, that's something that we've always done, yes. Because that's God's will for our life. You know, He wants us to do that. And sometimes people say, I just, you know, as busy as people are, will you just make it a priority? You know, you make it a priority.
It's like brushing your teeth. It's a habit, and if you don't do it, you know you're messing up because you feel it in your mouth, for one thing.
Absolutely.
But it really becomes a thing that is a habit if people do it.
It is.
And
you really get to know your children.
It's meaningful too.
You really get to know your children well, because what I noticed with them, especially at certain ages in their lives, they would want to put off going to bed anyway. So that's when they would really open up and talk to you, you know, about their day, or that this or that or happened, and conversations come up that would have never come up had we not been gathering together and coming together, you know, at night to have that family prayer. But back to Sarah, I knew that there was just something, and I really knew from the beginning that it was the Holy Spirit. As we one night we were just sitting in our den floor, just in a circle, and having our family prayer. And a lot of times we would start off praying, and then each one of us would take turns praying. So that night, that's what we were doing. And Sarah was about 3 years old, and she was late with her talking anyway. And we all had our eyes closed, the four of us. And when it came Sarah's turn, she just sounded like she was praying in tongues. And we just, you know, we kind of couldn't help it after so long a time. We just kind of opened up our eyes and looked at her, you know. And we timed her, and she did that for about 20 minutes. And she was sitting on Daryl's lap there on the floor, and I'll never forget, she was real little for her age anyway, and she was just praying and praying and praying, and the little tears was just streaming down, you know, and she did that for about, you know, 20 minutes. And
so how could you doubt the realness
absolutely,
of it? You know, some people would say, no, that couldn't be, and God has different ways. You can't put Him in a box.
No.
Because she's a very special girl. She's a little girl now, but she was a little girl when I first met her.
Yeah.
But she's always telling somebody about Jesus.
She does.
I want to get her on. And we're going to run out of time. Let's finish with Sarah right now. And then we're going to come back. Now, Marilyn has a special story about going through cancer and being a survivor. And that's taken place within, when did they diagnose your cancer?
It was February of last year.
Of last year.
February.
Now look at her, because she lost all of her hair, and she had a hard time there. We go through hard times when we have cancer. And if you're out there and are fighting, just know that she and I both are examples of the way God can bring you through it.
Absolutely.
And we just
Praise
keep
God.
looking to Him and praising Him and calling Him our healer. And I want her to finish with Sarah, whatever she wants to say, because Sarah is a beautiful, wonderful little lady of the Lord. She's a little, how old is Sarah now?
She's 15.
15. Watched her grow up, but she's still that sweetheart. So what do you find with Sarah that's unique?
Well, she has a special kind of innocence that I see in her. She knows a lot of the things, you know, that goes on in the world. It's not that she's ignorant of the worldly things, but she's kind of always been of the concept of why did so-and-so say this to so-and-so and hurt so-and-so's feelings, you know, at school, and her heart kind of hurts for the underdog. And that, I think, is what is unique about her. And the other thing that I found very unique about her is when she was in the 4th grade, she prayed at school with a child. this was in our public
Well,
schools.
I remember coming into the restaurant and going over to talk to somebody, and she's just talking away about Jesus, and I'm thinking, this kid is so special. I mean, she knows the Lord.
Yeah.
And she wanted to know, you know, how they were. I can't remember the exact conversation, but it was about Jesus. And I
Yes.
just thought, this little girl is unique.
Yes, yes, she is. And she prayed with this little boy at school, and he received salvation. So when she come home telling about it, at first, you know, I thought, well, you know, was this real? But the next week, I went to a teacher's meeting, and I was told by the teacher that it was very real.
Oh,
and I was
that's
so
wonderful.
thankful that the teacher, you know, was okay with it. She told her, she said, you know, Sarah, in our schools, I really can't do that, you know, do that type of thing. But you're a student, and you can, and you go, girl. And so I'm thankful that she was bold. God has used her to teach me a lot, because we're to become like little children.
Right.
And so she,
And if we don't really get the blessings that He has
No.
for us here while we're living here.
That's right.
And that's why I tell people, you know, we just need to be open. We're going to run out of time, but you need to be open to something more. That's all you need to
Yes.
call it. Just keep on praising the Lord and loving Him. And it's amazing the things that He'll do in this life. Because I don't think, Marilyn, we're supposed to live this wretched, oh, the devil's just got me, I'm under him, you know, he's beating me down. But I believe we need to let Jesus make us have the kind of faith that you have through everything. Even last year, when you were probably about your lowest time.
Yes, He
during
carried me.
relay.
There's
He
a lot
carried
of things I don't
you.
remember.
I could tell
and,
He carried you.
Yeah, yeah. He
And
carried me.
had it not been for Him, and I really believe that He knew Marilyn Wheat had something else to do, even sitting down on this program today, to be a blessing to you, to know that Jesus shines in her life. How many people today have prayer in their homes? They just don't do it. They don't take time. They don't think they have time. And when we leave out the Lord, we leave out the most important thing in the world, the only thing that's going to see us through in times of trouble. And to you out there, we would ask you to look to Jesus and get in this Word and find out what He is to you today. We love you, and we'll be praying for you. And tune in again next time when Marilyn will finish her testimony. Thank you for watching.
God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide. Hold me closely to His side. With love and strength for each new day, He will make a way. He will make a way. Let's sing it together. Oh, God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. Oh, He will be my guide. Hold me closely to His side. With love and strength